this lesson, we will go over array resizing, array initializers, and some tips and tricks for displaying arrays in the console. When we talk about array resizing, we're talking about adding elements to an array that weren't necessarily predicted to be there when the array was defined. On the screen I have some code from the previous lesson where we defined an array of strings called days of week that was 7 elements long and represented each day of the week, where 0 is Sunday all the way through 6 representing Saturday. Now let's say we created a new day, we'll call it Fun Day, and we wanted to add that as the 8th element in the array with an index of 7. We would go days of week 7 equals Fun Day. And we could save and run this application. And we get a horrible error. If we look at, we get our exception here. We get an unhandled exception with a system.indexOutOfRange exception. And we'll talk about how to handle exceptions programmatically this week in some later lessons. So what's the problem here? Well, the problem was we defined an array that was 7 items long, but then we added an 8th item. There is no index of 7. It doesn't work because we've only allocated 7 items, so the maximum index we can use is 6. Not to fear, you can resize an array later on. So let's say we wanted to add Fun Day as a day of the week. You can use the resize method of the array class to increase the size of an array. How would you do that? Well, first type array with a capital A, put a dot, and we'll call the resize static method. Okay, and we will open a parenthesis, and the first step is we reference the array, and this is very important. When resizing the array, you have to send it over by reference. We talked about that last week. So you first type in ref, and then the array name, the variable name, days of week, add a comma, and the second parameter is the new size. So before our size was 7, and now we want our size to be 8. So we will type in the number 8. And basically what this does, it makes a copy of your array, increases the size by 1, and then copies the value into your variable after it increases the size of it. Now, after we call array.resize, we'll be able to successfully add Fun Day as our 8th day of the week in the 7th index. To show that it works, let's write a for loop. So here we're iterating through this loop 8 times, and we're writing each of those times to the screen. And let's run the application. Help if I kept it from closing. We'll add that line and rerun it. And now we have successfully added the 8th day of the week, which is Fun Day, and we did that by resizing the array. Now, we're going to erase some of our work here. I talked about in our first lesson how arrays can be simpler when it comes to defining multiple items together. And I showed an example first of declaring 7 different variables, day 0, day 1, day 2. Well, here I still have 7 lines where I'm writing each day of the week into this array. And I really didn't save any time. I still have 7 lines of code here. There is another way to simplify it, and that's called an array initializer. An array initializer is a different way of initializing an array but putting in an initial set of values. So here, when we define string days of week, we created a blank array with 7 elements. Instead, we can pre-populate the values into this array using the initialization syntax. So what is the initialization syntax? Well, instead of =, new string, and then the total amount of elements you want in here, wipe all of that away and put 2 squiggly brackets and a semicolon. And within these squiggly brackets, put each of the elements that you want to have initialized into the variable, into the array. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I will try to make this a bit more readable. Now, one thing I've mentioned before, I'm putting these on multiple lines so it's easier to see in this video. You can do this in your own code. You don't have to put all this on the same line. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We'll go ahead and delete all these lines. Alright, let's look at what I've done here. So instead of putting new string, open square bracket, and the length of the array, what I've done is I have an open squiggly bracket. Each day of the week that I want to add to the array in order, separated by commas, a closed squiggly bracket, and a semicolon. What this will do is it will create as many an array that is as long as all the elements you put in here. So the count in here will be 7, the length will be 7, and it will add these initial values to the array in order that in the order that you've typed them in. So Sunday will have index of 0, Monday 1, Tuesday 2, all the way to Saturday with an index of 6. Then we can write another for loop. And display these array members again. And if we run this application, you'll see we've accomplished the same thing here. Writing Sunday through Saturday to the screen, but we've initialized the array in a different way. We have written in the initialization portion Sunday through Saturday within the squiggly brackets, each item separated by a comma, and the compiler automatically associates it with an index starting at 0 in the order these items are placed in the list. Alright, lastly, let's talk about a way to display tabular data in the console. When we talk about arrays, especially when we go through multi-dimensional arrays, it's going to be important that the data in the console that you write is readable. Now, if you think of using Notepad or Excel, we'll pop open Excel from the previous lesson. Readability, a lot of times with arrays, is important to have. And it's important to place things into columns of equal width. So here we have a column, it's equal with. Here we have a column, it's equal with. If we had more columns here or a multi-dimensional array, you would want everything to be a nice tabular form. You can imagine the console window as a grid. I mentioned this in class, where characters are at position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And you can force items into columns using a special syntax as part of string interpolation. So let's change our for loop here, and let's not only display the day of the week, but let's display a title column, a title separator column, title row, a title separator row, and each row of data equally spaced. So let's first create a title row. Console.writeLine, string interpolation, and here we will create a title row, index, comma, let's say 10. And then we want to do another column here, value, comma, 10. So what have I done here? I have written the word index to the screen, but I have written it into a column that is 10 characters long. I have written value to the screen in a column that's 10 characters long. And actually in between those, let's add 2 spaces. So when I print this to the screen, index and value, together they're only 10 characters wide. But you'll see on the screen when I draw these or write these index and value strings, it's going to add spaces until it fills up 10 characters in width. And actually, between these, let's do a separator, a pipe. This will make more sense when you'll see it on the screen in a minute. Then let's add a title separator. Here, we'll do this a little differently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I put 11 there to represent 10 in the space. A pipe, and I'm going to put 11 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm writing a separator row. And I did this in the for loop. That was a mistake. I'll write that 10 times to the screen. We're going to put it outside. We only want to write this once. And then inside of the for loop, let's just copy this line. And we're going to write the current days of the week and the current index. So here we'll write the index, and that will be the value of counter, and make it 10 wide. And we're going to then write the value of days of the week counter with a width of 10. And let's run this and see what it does, and then we'll go back to the code. I know it was probably a bit confusing, especially because I put the console.writeLine for the title row in the for loop. Again, that should be outside of the for loop because you only want to write it once. So let's start this again. And look at this beautiful bean footage we have on the screen. We've written a table to the console. So here we have an index column and a value column. These are each 10 wide, and then we did an equal sign, a pipe, and an equal sign spacer, or a space, a pipe, and a space spacer. And then we have another column that's 10 wide. But if you look at how we did this, it looks very readable. If you were to give me this piece of code and I were to run it, I would be very happy because there would be absolutely no question which index correlated to which value. A lot of times this will be called pretty printing. You'll always want to display tabular data when dealing with arrays or displaying arrays in a console. So let's go back to our code. Again, take a snapshot in your mind of how this looks. Let's close this. So what we're doing here is when I write console.writeLine, let's break this up into some comments here. So I'm going to, right here, this is what I'm writing into the console. I will use an underscore to represent a space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, INDEX. That's the first part of this line. And then another space. Again, I'm representing it with an underscore so you can see it. A pipe. So we got space, pipe, and then another space. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 underscores. Those are spaces. And then value. Now again, how did I do this? I'm saying index will be 10. It will justify to the right here, as you can see. It'll be 10 characters in width, right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It will have another space, a pipe, and a space, so there'll be 3 characters. Space, pipe, space. And then value, it'll be a line to the right and take up 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's it. That's our title line. And then here, it's a bit simpler because I just drew out what I wanted to display. 10 equal signs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. An equal sign, a pipe, and an equal sign. And then another 10 equal signs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Look at how pretty that is. All right, now for each of these lines, I have my counter value. That's going to take up 10 characters. A line to the right, a space, a pipe, and a space. So we have our index as the first one. And then we have our value for day of the week at that specific index, and it's going to take up 10 characters. So let's draw this out for Wednesday, or Wednesday if you prefer. All right, so Wednesday, we have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so it's going to be an index of 3. So how would this look? I'll use underscores for spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 3. All right, another space, a pipe, a space, Wednesday. So that's 9. So we'll do another space, Wednesday. That's how it's going to look on the screen. And it will, let's say, Friday is shorter, Friday. It's 3 shorter, so it would automatically add those 3 spaces in, and it would change that index to 5. So essentially, this is all we're doing here. It's string manipulation, but using this syntax, it allows you to really convey tabular, clean-looking data to the screen. There's a million other formatting techniques you can use through string interpolation or through the traditional string.format syntax. You can format date times, you can format variable conversions, length of a decimal place. But this is an example of I want to show data at a specific width of characters, a specific column width, and you can do that through the comma syntax in string interpolation. And again, it's very important when displaying tabular data. I would hope that when you did your assignments, you can show me your output as tabular data using this string formatting technique with string interpolation.